Hello everyone! In this video we're going to be decorating an apartment for a werewolf, and this is actually inside of a shell challenge that is for a haunted castle. This is an official shell challenge from the Sims team. It was actually built by Jubiesims, and I'm going to have that link down in the description in case you'd like to try it. It's also a contest, and the winner can get the new Life and Death expansion pack. I actually can't participate for that, so I am not really taking the deadline into consideration because I live in a country that is not included in this dynamic. But I still wanted to try it, and I really loved how this apartment came out. I have already decorated one for a vampire, and I'm planning to have every one of these 5 units be for a different occult. So I'm really excited about this build. I really love that I got to use the castle estate kit again, and I think that it's looking really cool. Here I wanted to make sure that these werewolves didn't have this whole destroyed aesthetic that the werewolves game pack comes with. So I still wanted it to feel like it belonged to werewolves, but I didn't want it to be so shabby and destroyed and everything. So what I did was that I really tried to capture the forest, and I got it to be pretty fancy, but I really leaned into that. So I used a bunch of stuff, mainly from Cottage Living and from Crystal Creations, because I also thought that they would be interested in gemology. I wanted one of these apartments to have the gemology table, and I really like to pair this with spellcasters because it feels very magical. But since werewolves are so aware of the moon, I thought that gemology would be a good fit for them, since they probably study the moon and they always know which phase the moon is in. And there's one of these crystals that actually helps occults with their abilities, and for werewolves it actually makes them build less fury. So I thought that it would be pretty useful for them, so I decided that I wanted to have that skill building item in here. I mainly only just have cooking stuff and a desk, as well as some bookcases. So yeah, I decided to include that, and at first this apartment is going to look very dark. I did end up using a different wallpaper in one of these sections of this, but that comes a lot later. That was the bit that I found most difficult in here. I also really wanted to have a backsplash, but I didn't want to get rid of the paneling in this section. So what I did was that I used these wall decorations from high school years, and I ended up having them as some sort of stone tile. And I really love that I used these beautiful cottage living counters. They feel fancy enough, and they look a bit like they belong in the country. I was thinking that this castle is probably going to be in the country in the new world, which is called Ravenwood, and I'm planning to include items from the new expansion pack in at least 2 apartments, depending on when I finish this build. And I also really love that I used the green appliances from Country Kitchen. I also thought that these chairs from Paranormal are perfect in here because they are similar to the chairs from Werewolves, but they look a lot fancier and they are in a good state. So I was very happy with that. And there is a section of this apartment that is pretty destroyed, and that's the basement, because I'm thinking that the only reason why this apartment is so put together and fancy is because downstairs they have this hidden basement in which they have a couple of cells, so they can just lock themselves up before they go into a rampage. And I hid the entrance to the basement next to the entrance to the apartment, behind some bookshelf doors, and I thought that came out pretty cool. I really like that basement. I have some of the destroyed items from werewolves, and I really want to tell you about it, but first I'm going to be decorating this living room. So I really wanted to use this couch because it's sort of a green color, and I don't think I had used it yet, so I was very excited about that. I am using this, it's a dresser from werewolves, the one that looks like a couple of chests. I did try to use a few items from werewolves in different parts of this house, but I made sure to use the ones that didn't look destroyed. I also got this painting that's from Cats and Dogs, and I really liked the idea of there being a dog, and I think that for some reason these people really like the sea. There's a few paintings of the sea in this build. I have that above a couch from Crystal Creations, and I discovered that these curtains from Realm of Magic actually fit perfectly with these windows. I don't really like those curtains, they have some weird swatches, and I just think that they are a bit strange, but I was very happy to see that they actually fit above these windows perfectly. So that made me actually very happy. Now we're going to be working on the entryway for it. I wanted to have a rug in here, and I decided to use this circular one. I angled it diagonally so that we could have that match the angle of the desk, and it has the moons. I think that was very cute. I didn't actually include a computer in here for no real reason, really. I just didn't. But that's an easy thing to add. And this is when I started to try and find different wallpapers. And at first I have this wallpaper all over this build, but I thought that it was a bit too much. So what I did was that I kept the paneling in most walls, and one thing that happened while I was building this was that I kept having trouble placing columns. So in the end I just gave up. I will try to add those in before I upload this to the gallery, and my ID is Veranio, and you can find it over there. I will also have the link down in the description, and I will make sure to upload these as a normal residential and also as a residential rental, just to avoid any trouble that there may be with for rent. But I decided to have the paneling behind every space except for the living room, and then in the entryway I added a version of it that has some more color, so it doesn't look as dark, and I thought that really worked out well with this. And I got some tools above this gemology table, as well as some artwork. I wanted to have a few nods to the moon in this apartment, and I also really liked how the fireplace is next to the dining room. I thought that was cool, and if I size down these bookcases from Strangerville, they fit pretty well next to it. They look like it was all built in, and they have these big spaces that aren't decorated, so I include some stuff from Crystal Creations mainly in those areas, and I thought that it was a cool way to have some more storage for the gemology table. And I also got this scale from Realm of Magic. I discovered that it has a swatch that matches the sink pretty well, and I got some more tins from the Country Kitchen kit. So here is what I meant by that. I included this crystal terrarium and some of those tools. I also got these beautiful mushrooms from Werewolves, and I also wanted to have the wolves, the ones that are collectibles. They look like they are jumping, so I decided to have that above the fireplace, and I thought that worked out pretty cool. And I also really loved having this tapestry from vampires. It looks medieval and it's really beautiful. It has that tree, so I thought that was another way of making this look like these Sims were really into nature and the woods. And I also included these beautiful illustrations from Werewolves. They have a butterfly and the moon petal flower, I think that's what it's called. So I really did pick the items from Werewolves that look the neatest. Oh, and I am also using these beautiful wall decorations from Paranormal, which is a stock pack that really goes well with most occults. And then I just decided to have some more tools on top of this gemology table, as well as this small like oil lamp from Crystal Creations as well. And I made these tiny like a small chest of drawers in here so that I could have this gemology travel kit. And then I decided to have the lilies from the artist studio kit and just a small wooden box. And I really liked how I was able to fit most items from the Crystal Creations pack. I think that the cluttering in there is so cool, and The thing about clutter is that sometimes you don't have enough surfaces to put it on, and sometimes you have too much surface and not enough clutter. I think that sometimes that's a thing that happens with stuff bags mainly, or kits. So I also wanted to have this display case that is also from Crystal Creations here in the bathroom, and I just added some towels inside of it, and also a tray with some toiletries, and I think that was cool. I really loved using the tile from high school years and the cozy bistro kit. I'm planning on using this toilet from vampires all over this building. I really love how old it looks. I really want it to look like a lot of it is antique, so I'm using old stoves and fridges and the toilet. Also, the bathtub is from Cottage Living, and it has a green that was pretty similar to the one that I was using. And I don't know why, but I am just really loving green lately. So this bathroom and this apartment in general just made me very happy. And yeah, this is just a very nice sort of fancy bathroom. It might be a bit fancier than the one that I have in the vampire's apartment actually, and I will have that link down in the description in case you haven't seen that yet, and I will also make a playlist for this. But in the bedroom, I wanted to have this bed from the base game actually. I don't think I have ever used it, but it looks so antique, and I thought it was perfect to have in here. I also added a painting also from Cats and Dogs that has some more of the sea. And I am using these new curtains from the Storybook Nursery kit. For some reason, I think that they look great with the purple wallpaper from Crystal Creations. And I did have to size them down because they clipped a bit. The ends, the gold part was sticking out on the outside. But I think that it worked out okay, and they still give you a lot of privacy and they block most of the light. So I thought that was good, and I really liked having this like bay window seating area. And this, I'm also using the beautiful jewelry box from Crystal Creations, as well as some candy from Paranormal, and just some more clutter items. I also wanted to get a mirror, and I felt that this space was a bit awkward and empty, so I added another one of those paintings. This one is from Werewolves, and that's the only place in the house where they actually tore something that wasn't in the basement, and I just have as tool so that they can just to fill in the space a bit better. But now we're working on the basement. I made sure to not have it right next to the basement for the vampires. I'm really excited about having basements for each of the 3 downstairs units. The one that is next door is going to be for a ghost. And I'm using the same flooring and stone on the walls that I have on the outside of this castle. And these are those cells. They are very simple. They just have a bed and a toilet. There's also like some newspaper that has some pee stains on it. It's from Cats and Dogs, and some muddy paw prints. And I have this lantern initially, but I decided to change it out for one from Cottage Living because it was smaller and a lot simpler. And I also added like this really destroyed and DIY'd bathtub from Strangerville. I was thinking that they liked the idea of keeping the bathtub a secret, so they just got an old one and they added the water heater and the hose to it. I like the idea of all of these Sims trying to hide from their neighbors that they are occults, even if they are all occults. I think that they all know that this castle is haunted. They know about the ghost, and that's probably why they picked to live here in the first place. So they probably just blame the ghost for everything that goes wrong. So if somebody does something that's a bit weird, they're like, it's haunted, it's the ghost's fault. And I just thought that was funny. I also forgot to include this while I was recording, but I did have a woodworking table here in the basement so that they could construct the toilets and this bathtub. That's the other skill building item that this apartment has. And I added it where I initially have the fire alarm, though I did move that so that it's still it is still in this room. And I just added some more stuff from werewolves so that it would be very obvious that a werewolf lives here. They probably have some books with some more occult information, and they want to keep that hidden so that they can protect their identity a bit better. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you stay tuned for the next apartments in this series. I'm very excited about them. I will make sure to have that playlist in the description, and I hope to see you soon.